You ever seen a building so big it sucks itself down into the ground every year? You know, that sinking feeling you get when you walk into an empty nightclub at midnight? Yeah, well, you can experience that literally in Romania. Welcome to our channel, and today we're exploring the world's most useless mega building. It's massive, it's heavy, and no one's ever gonna use it. It's the Palace of the Parliament in Bucharest, Romania. This is the world's heaviest building. It weighs in at 4 billion kilograms or 8.8 billion pounds. That's heavier than the 3.5 billion pound Empire State Building. The palace is also the second largest building in the world by volume, beaten out only by the Pentagon. But if the Pentagon had to move to make way for its own construction, this building would be the biggest by volume. In fact, to make way for the Palace of the Parliament, 1/5 of Bucharest's historic center was demolished. This is one of the worst offenses you could commit in the architecture world. Demolish buildings from Old Town Bucharest. At least they did not tear down all of Old Town Bucharest, because then this pointless megastructure would be even more pointless. So how did this happen? How do you go from having a charming city center to having an eyesore like this in the middle of it? Well, you elect a dictator who likes big things. Meet Ceaușescu, Romania's answer to North Korea's supreme leader. He was the kind of guy who liked big things like giant statues of himself, like this one where he looks like he's wrestling a bear, or this one where he's petting a tiger. In both cases, his face has been superimposed onto someone else's body, because apparently even the best artists in Romania couldn't bring themselves to draw Ceaușescu as anything other than a two-dimensional stick figure. Ceaușescu also liked big buildings like this one, the second biggest in the world by volume, only beaten out by the Pentagon. Ceaușescu thought that Romania needed a new palace to replace the old royal palace which had been demolished in 1947. So he set about designing what would become the second largest administrative building in the world. It took 8 years to design and then another 6 years to build, because it took time to track down all the materials that were needed to make something so big. Like, where do you even find enough glass to cover by 100 rooms? Turns out you mine it from the mountains. To make the windows of the Palace of the Parliament, 3,500 tons of crystal were harvested from the mountains of Navals. Also, it turns out you don't need permission to harvest crystal from the mountains of Navales. Who knew? Then there's the marble. It took 1 million cubic meters of marble to complete the facade and interior of the building. Where do you get 1 million cubic meters of marble from? You get it from the mountains. Specifically, you get it from the mountains of Câmpulung Moldovenesc. Apparently, this place has a lot of marble. Who knew? To find out how much money went into building the Palace of the Parliament, just take the country's GDP from 1975 and multiply it by 3. Then divide that number by the population of Romania at the time, and then subtract whatever that works out to per person from the average Romanian's daily bread intake. What you will end up with is $4 billion, or the modern-day equivalent of 20 billion Romanian lei. That amount of money could have bought Romania a lot of bread. In fact, it actually could have solved the bread problem entirely. But back in the 1980s, when construction began, Romanians faced long bread lines and blackouts. Ceaușescu spent the money anyway. Maybe he felt like the building would attract foreign investment and solve the country's economic woes. Maybe he just liked marble palaces. Whatever the reason, the Romanian people suffered. In order to finance the building, Ceaușescu poured money into exporting manufactured goods while importing more grain. This led to food shortages, especially of bread, which caused those bread lines. Bread prices rose 300% between 1980 and 1989. Food prices in general rose around 100% during this time. Meanwhile, wages only rose about 40%. So the people got poorer while the dictator got richer. All thanks to the Palace of the Parliament. But the palace didn't cause only the economy to suffer. It caused the landscape to suffer too. The building is so heavy that every year it slowly sinks into the ground. Engineers designed an earthquake-resistant foundation to deal with this. They essentially created a floating slab on top of which they placed the building. This prevents the building from cracking and keeps it safely separated from the ground. It's probably also why the building has rumors of underground bunkers. If the foundation can float the building, then maybe it can also hide the building. But the sinkhole isn't really the fault of the engineers. It's simply the law of physics at work. Heavy things sink into the ground. Just ask New Orleans. We know what it's like. In New Orleans, it's the water that does the sinking. But in Bucharest, it's the building. Water is essential to life. The Romans knew this. They built aqueducts to carry water into their cities. The Romanians knew this too. They built the first indoor plumbing system in Europe. Unfortunately for them, they built it inside a building that slowly sinks into the ground. So if you want to visit the Palace of the Parliament, don't bother turning up with your own plumbing. It's not your fault. It's just the nature of the building. These days, the palace consists of over 1,000 rooms spread out over 12 stories. It has 95 meters of floor space and 86 meters of height. Ceaușescu never finished the dome, which was supposed to rise 165 meters in the air. Even without the dome though, the building is visible from miles away. On a clear night, visitors can see the lights of the palace from Hungary, Serbia, and Bulgaria. When viewed from the air, it resembles a giant wedding cake made of concrete. And on sunny days, the reflective glass facade blinds everyone within a 5-mile radius. It's considered one of the brightest architectural reflective surfaces in the world. As impressive as all that sounds, the building is 95% empty these days. What's not empty are the bookshops on the ground floor where you can pick up everything from touristat to books about the Romanian Revolution. Ironically, the revolution that brought down Ceaușescu happened in the square in front of the palace. Students protested against the regime on Christmas Day, 1989, and quickly attracted thousands of Romanians angry over food and electricity shortages. Ceaușescu responded by sending in the secret police, but the police defected and joined the protesters. After 20 years in power, Ceaușescu and his wife were captured and executed by firing squad. The palace remained largely untouched. Other than being robbed of some of its furniture, most of which ended up in foreign embassies, the building remained empty. Romania's government didn't know what to do with it. They didn't want to use it for administrative purposes because it cost too much to maintain. Rumor has it that every year it costs the state $6 million to keep the building free of pigeons. That's why you'll see maintenance workers cleaning the facade every summer. They don't clean the windows. Instead, they remove pigeon droppings. I don't think anyone's brave enough to clean those windows. The building has also been used as a film set. Most notably, parts of the movie Resident Evil were filmed inside the palace. It's also home to the Romanian parliament, although many of the politicians have complained about working there. The acoustics are terrible. Every cough, sniffle, and page turn can be heard across the room. And it's cold in winter because no one uses the heating. It's cheaper to just let the building fill with snow. Plus, the sound carries better that way. The palace is open to the public and you can tour the building with a guide. If you're interested in seeing what it's like inside, tour guides warn visitors not to touch any of the furniture. The velvet on the chairs and sofas is extremely delicate and can rip easily. There's also the added danger of stepping on a loose floorboard and falling into the basement, which is surprisingly common. But the best part of visiting the palace is imagining what it would be like to live in a society where the leader spends billions of dollars building a pointless building instead of addressing food shortages and inflation. Or imagine what it would be like to be a pigeon living in a building that's constantly cleaned by humans. Must be depressing. But hey, at least the building looks pretty from the outside. Thanks for watching. See you next time.